Oh man, talk about getting off on the wrong foot here, Charles. We had such a great opening planned, and it's just one technical disaster after the next.
That's all right. That's quite all right.
I don't know what is going on. This was all set to go, and here we are, 10 minutes late.
It's okay, Jason. It's okay. Sometimes it's worth waiting for figuring out that the best is yet to come.
It's very difficult for me to understand what's going on here, Charles, because, yesterday I had a broadcast going. People like to see New York and the really troubling situation that's developing all around us. And I got a lot of emails from people today saying that that was like the best. More than one person said it was the best video I've ever done. And when it finished, it had 5,000 views, and then YouTube struck the video. Took it down. People can't access it. They said that there was a Jay-Z song playing in there as I walked by some restaurant. I don't know why this isn't working. It was working 5 seconds ago. I queued it up.
Well,
they struck the video, they took it down. People can't access it. But Charles, they struck the video on the Jason Goodman channel where most of the people watch the shows and where we can gain momentum and really get the message out. But they left it alone on Crowdsource The Truth Too. So is it YouTube messing with these videos, or is it some of these scumbags and assholes who are trying to destroy my business and occupy all my time with nonsense who go complain about the video?
I can't tell you, Jason, but I can say that the art department here has really done a stupendous job. This could be one of, in the top 5, top 10, this poster here. Never Say Never Trump Again.
Thank you, Charles.
You might want to explain for the viewers who some of these mermaids are.
Well, before we do that, this is actually an important and timely poster for us to have, because I think most of our viewers are aware that someone who is actually a personal acquaintance of yours unfortunately passed over the weekend. And this is a significant film in the history of James Bond because it came out, I think, in around 1983, sort of at the height of my James Bond fandom as a kid. And it was Sean Connery in this one with Roger Moore out at the exact same time. And there was a whole war between the rights for the movie and the producers and all that. And there's another sort of legal financial thing brewing with James Bond right now with the new movie. But because this was the last James Bond film with Sean Connery in it and the title fits so well, I thought it would be a good way for us to help President Trump down the home stretch here as you fly in this amazing device.
I have one of those, actually, yeah.
Yeah, it's in the garage, right?
Yes.
And then the other thing is, Charles, I thought it was important.
There
I knew
you
I'd get
are.
a lot of emails from people, so I had to picture myself riding with a helmet, or it would be no end to the...
That's right. But there, of course, without getting into the business of commenting on how somebody looks, I just say that you have painted these ladies in a very flattering light. Let's just put it that way.
Well, it's 3 generations of Trump detractors. We've got Hillary as the past, Nancy Pelosi as the present, and AOC, an unfortunate but probable future.
Right. But just a few words on Connery. I first met him in the early 1990s, I think. And one of the things that people told me about him before I met him is they said, don't suck up to him. Treat him like just a normal person. He gets all sorts of people sucking up to him, and he really doesn't like that. And for me, that wasn't an issue. I get in trouble because I just say what I think to the person, no matter how powerful or not powerful they may be. And for some strange reason, he and I really hit it off very well in the beginning. And he really enjoyed the fact that I would also stand up to him, when he made a mistake. When he's obviously was a fantastic actor with great experience as an entertainer, and he was also perhaps a leading national figure in Scotland and in Europe and around the world, and accustomed to dealing with the most powerful people in the world, which kind of got him into a territory of deciding that he was an expert on certain political matters and economic matters and market matters, when not so much. But he was really he went out of his way to be nice to me and to my friends and family, and I really appreciate it. I think one of the highlights of my time with him was when he came. We share a mutual friend. My mutual friend is known Connery forever. And before that, he's the guy who, we won't say his name, but he's the guy who was, when he was a young kid, he was one of, I think, 4 or 5 kids, and 4 kids, I guess, and they're all big, physically big people, and he was the youngest one, not necessarily as focused on school as he should be. So his parents sent my friend to live with John Wayne to straighten him out.
Wait.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to explain. My friend's father met John Wayne in a place I'm not going to explain. Wayne looked after my friend, straightened him out. And so by the time my friend met Connery after 1974 or thereabouts, when he moved to the Bahamas, he had already grown up around famous movie stars, and he was very comfortable with Sean, and he truly, he would spend, I mean, he's a lot of time with Sean Connery. And I suppose the sad news is that Sean's health had debilitated. People know that I was down in the Bahamas in November, and he just didn't want to see anybody in November of last year. His health was that bad. He really sort of melted away. So I think the issue with him is that he's in a better place now. But one of the nice things he did for me, a couple of nice things, I would bring my young kids down, and my business partner had 5 children, and they all had lots of friends. So there would be a gaggle of these children. We'd go to the various, Lyford Key, there are various restaurants and homes and stuff like that. But we all liked to go to something, the restaurant where the people who worked on boats, the big yachts would come into Lyford Key. Mrs. Ferguson's was the name of the place. And they had stuff like macaroni and cheese and hot dogs and stuff that little kids liked. And Connery loved that food. So we would go, a whole bunch of us would come in, and then he would come and sit at our table and just for a long time, not creepy Joe Biden style, but genuinely interact with these little girls and boys and shake their hands and listen to them and let the little girls kiss him or whatever and take pictures of him. And he didn't do it in a patronizing way. It was just, he enjoyed being around the younger generation. And so one time he was done with all that, and he called up my friend. He said, "Hey, look, let's go see this movie in town at a normal movie theater with no advance notice."
It's called James Bond.
No, it was Tom Hanks. It was Angels and Demons.
Oh yeah.
And so we went in there. And we just stood in the line. He actually paid. He was Scottish, and so he was careful with his money. But he actually paid for the movie tickets, paid for the kind of food that you get in the movie theaters, of crap hot dogs and stuff. And then we watched.
Did you get the nachos, Charles?
I think he did.
It's so salty.
I forget, but anyway, so we then sat there just 3 guys in a row watching this movie together, and then he critiqued it. He said, "I thought they could do this better or that better, and this wasn't so good, and that was good, and this was." But to have an Academy Award winner take you to the movies, and then take us through his perspective on the movie as a lionized and highly experienced actor was a real treat for me. And so another time, I think I've told you this story, but I won't say exactly who these people were, but I was down there. I think it was the time. It was either the time. I think it was the time that I called George Soros out for foot faulting.
My favorite story.
If not, or it was a month after that. I was down there. Maybe it was a month after that, and it was for. I think no. I'm just trying to get it straight now. Maybe it was a month later. I was there for New Year's Eve, and. We were sitting there, we had at my friend's house, he then still had his big house. He had a whole bunch of people over, and we had, a sumptuous buffet, and including really nice roast beef, which was cut up into slices and stuff.
You're not telling us this story because Arby's bought Dunkin' Donuts.
No.
I just want to be sure.
So we had a bunch of food left over. My friend calls up Sean in the morning. He says, "Look, you want to come over and have for lunch? You want to have some steak sandwiches, roast beef sandwiches?" So he came over, and we literally had, this much, a thing like this of steak, really, a tenderloin left over. And the host chopped off a big piece, and he was going to take that back to his house. And my friend, what happened? My friend said to his girlfriend, Sean had this thing in his hand. Said to his girlfriend, "Hold Sean's meat." and Connery looked at her and said, "Be still, my heart." Just like that. It was really very, very quick. And with that, actually, the girlfriend took a picture of me and Sean laughing, and that picture is up on Facebook. I don't have it on my, but there is a picture of me. I think that's the only picture I have. I never once asked him for a picture or to sign anything. I don't believe in doing that kind of stuff. But that's, I think, the only picture of me and him is, and it's somebody put it up on their Facebook page at one point. So he truly was a great man, and he had been married. How did it work? His current wife had a child, I think, by another person, and he then adopted that child, and I think it's Stefan, who is also a wonderful human being. That's Micheline there, and Sean. And that's in, I believe that is in my friend's house.
Oh, wow.
That picture. But anyway, I may have it wrong, but I think it is.
It's very Tony Soprano of him to have a painting of himself.
Well,
it's a good painting, though.
Yeah, and so anyway, Stefan the son is now one of the world's premier art dealers, and Sean retired to the Bahamas, to Lyford, and he, I think, had a place in Switzerland. But his first love was really Lyford Key and golf. Wow. He was quite an avid golfer.
That's pretty Scottish of him.
Yeah, well, right. Well, and he was very much about, actually, Trump tweeted out today that, Trump had that development in Scotland he was trying to get across the line. And he tweeted out condolences to Sean and Sean's wife, and reminded people that it was Sean Connery who broke the logjam for him to get his Scottish golf resort across the line against local opposition. Huh. So anyway, he was, and in fact, one of his last trips up here to New York, he was going to some big benefit, and
Clinton Foundation.
No, he was invited to that Clinton Foundation event in the Bahamas in 2004. He told me he was just a complete fraud. But
he went?
I think he went because he was, there's the Atlantis there in the Bahamas, and the guy who owned the Atlantis was a friend of my friend. And
there's an Atlantis in Dubai as well, and they have Nobu in the Atlantis
in
Dubai.
Same in the Bahamas.
So there's something going on there. And then the other thing that they had in Dubai is Katsuya, which is a nice Japanese restaurant from LA that's somehow affiliated with the SLS Hotel. And then they opened an SLS hotel in Vegas. I know this is a little bit convoluted, but there seems to be some sort of a...
Well, the promoter down in the Bahamas was a bit larger-than-life figure who I think went spectacularly bust before the COVID shutdown. The Bahamas right now is in deep, serious trouble. I mean, they have not been able to have guests. They tried to open it back up and had a gigantic flare-up. They're in quarantine. But anyway, so Connery came to New York, and... I was not being difficult or anything. I just didn't know this, and he really wanted me to join him at this one thing, and our signals got crossed. But I don't actually like crowds that much. He's not a huge crowd lover either, but he was a good man and very nice to me and my family, and very nice to the people I cared about. And my heart goes out to their family. But I honestly think he's probably in a better place right now.
Better than being locked down. He had some awesome classic lines and was in some really fantastic movies in addition to James Bond stuff.
Can you do his accent?
I was gonna do something insulting, but
you could do. You
don't. Some good insulting lines.
One of them was, "You don't bring a knife to a gunfight."
He says, "Yeah."
And Obama used that line in 2000.
Did he?
12, I think he did, or 8. He used that line.
But the actual line is insulting name for an Italian person.
I would not do that.
A knife to a gunfight.
A knife to a gunfight.
Because it was about the Irish mob versus the Italian mob and all that kind of thing. But so, Charles, it's days away from Election Day. Everybody, I got to tell you, my friends who still leave the television turned on with Fox, there's a huge number of people who think they're getting the full story. They watch Fox and CNN.
Right.
They're getting everything.
Well, if you can Google Tehran Times and my name in the last 24 hours, you'll get to a piece that I actually wrote last week that just, I don't think that's how you spell Tehran.
Well, it'll figure it out. That's why they invented Google, because I
Yeah,
can't
here you
spell.
go. Right here. Yeah, so this came out today at 11:44. And if you look up at the Tehran Times...
Ooh, they've messed with your aspect ratio, Charles. Your head looks a little stretched out.
Well, whatever. But the point is, this is this is the leading English language publication of the official of the Iranian government. And they just sent me these questions. I did one previous one. But I would note that I think I sent this in a week ago. Right before the recent developments and the shift in the poll, and I said that Trump's going to win. And equally, I've been, as people know, with Katrina Blainova of Sputnik, I've been doing a series of similar types of things. She and now the Iranians will send me questions. I answer them. They didn't really edit anything that I put in. They just took my stuff and published it.
That's good.
Well, it's interesting because what I was basically saying. The theory that John Kerry, the very bouffant and weird John Kerry, remember, had been going around to meeting with the Iranians and saying, you don't have to put up with this, Trump won't win re-election. And that explains some of the Iranian militancy until very recently, because, John Kerry, who I would argue is a treasonous crook who should be in prison.
Instigating him?
Yeah, he was, the Iranians have been, and others have been paying off American and Western politicians for decades. And I don't know that John Kerry was directly taking money, but he has the son in Rosemont Seneca, remember?
I was going to say, he probably gave it to his son first and then took it. So he could say, I'm not getting money from her.
Yeah, I'm the big guy.
Got it from my son.
I'm the grand guy, because I speak French, unlike Joe. But anyway, the Iranians have a lot of experience, as do people in the Middle East, paying off politicians.
Oh, yeah.
And so here's John Kerry causing mayhem. And I actually think that if you're a former Secretary of State, you're a former head of the CIA, defense, whatever, your security clearances should be canceled. I don't buy this crap that you need to have the reservoir of knowledge of the last 4 decades of these people. We can't lose that. I think we've flushed that down the toilet, man. And so to have Kerry and others go around and really make it more difficult for Donald Trump to get things accomplished, because the people who will be sitting there in a room over in the Middle East are saying, well, we're hearing from other sides, on a fair and balanced view, John Kerry, with decades of experience as a senator and this and that, is telling us that Trump is never going to win re-election. So interesting that the Iranians let me publish that. And actually, I put it in. I had no say over when it was going to go, whether it would be edited or not. And I was not offered, nor do I want, nor do I seek any sort of compensation of any kind. So, it's not, I wasn't doing this for money. I just expressed my views, something that I have not been able to do on Fox, on ABC, on CBS, and NBC, and any other ones that regularly had me on in 2016, nor the Washington Post, New York Times, etc. So pretty ironic that you get some truth from an American in the Tehran Times before you get any truth from anybody in the New York Times.
It's unbelievable, Charles. Yeah. I think that ABC broke the deadlock yesterday, had one story, but it doesn't seem to have opened the floodgates. It just becomes, ooh, this idiot at ABC, get him out of there.
No, I think it really has. If you
has it?
Yeah, let's do a few things. If you put Trump Arizona poll, and let's just see for the hell of it what comes up, and do Biden leads Trump in 4 key states, polls show. All right? I guess this is the New York Times. Now if you punch in Trump, Arizona, 96. Not 33, but 96. Which I suppose is almost 3 33s, but...
96?
Yeah. And you should get a very interesting video.
Oh, yes. Well, that's YouTube, because they don't really want to... Can't really find any news on it. It's YouTube, so I just want to make sure we find...
It's on my Twitter feed.
No, I mean, we're definitely finding things.
Yeah, there you go.
no mainstream news. It's all the 96-mile-long Trump train in Arizona, but Instagram,
But
Twitter.
think about that. I mean, I don't know. Can people watch it while we talk about it? Or
Here, Wayne Dupree. Let's.
Yeah. I mean, 96 miles of cars. That's, from here all the way past Millbrook, New York.
That's amazing.
That's an amazing line. And the New York Slimes has Trump behind Biden in Arizona. I'm not buying it. Not buying it in the slightest.
How come Arizona local news isn't giving us that?
Well, I mean, remember in Arizona, it's a state where you have the McCain family, the in-laws to the McCains, to John McCain, are extremely powerful.
Who are they?
They have the beer distributorship there. Corsi, remember, argued that there's not mafia connections, and Corsi's written about this and a lot about it. So Cindy McCain's parents, or grandparents, I guess. And then you have the Mormons, who, or at least some Mormons, are close to Romney. And then you have the migrants, not the people coming from the South, but the people from California and elsewhere. Some are, blue, bring their blue sympathies into a red state. So the theory that the Slimes and others are trying to sell is that Arizona is going to flip to Biden. And I think that's just hogwash. I think that the models, generally speaking, state by state, they oversample Democrats. They assume that all Democrat votes are going to be for Biden when that's not the case. There are going to be people who are registered Democrats who supported Bernie who are going to vote for Trump. Then they undersample Republicans, and they may, in the sample of Republicans they likely include more Romney supporters than Trump. So they have a skewed Republican issue, and then they have the independents. They're not really sampling them properly. I mean, the best story that I've seen, there was one, Ronna McDaniel tweeted something out, the head of the RNC, saying that something like 40+% of the people who have attended the Trump rallies, it's Ronna, and I think it might be spelled, R-O-N-N-A, no H.
God, chairwoman. Not my day for computer stuff here, Charles. Nothing is coming up in local news in Arizona about that 96-mile thing.
Right.
But it's people putting it on Twitter. I mean, without social media, we really see the difference.
Right, and they're doing it. But so Ronna McDaniel, I think you'll see it. Here we go. In her tweet, she had one tweet. Yeah, here we go. Look at this. Huge 48.2% not Republican.
322.
But 32% didn't vote in 2016. Now, offsetting this, Bannon was selling, and I think Bannon is trying to sell the idea that the lead is closer than we think to encourage people to actually vote, right? But 32% of the people at this rally here in Macomb, I guess, Georgia, didn't vote in 2016. Now, what Bannon was saying is that people have died since 2016. Oh, there you go.
322.
There you go. It's everywhere.
That's the Skull and Bones from Yale.
I got to leave. No, I'm not. I was not in Skull and Bones. But anyway, but John Kerry was.
Right.
And so was George Bush and his father.
And Tim Wilson asked about it. That was the last question he asked.
So 32% did not vote in 2016. And there's no way that 32% of the people who voted for Trump have died since 2016, right? So this is a gigantic number going to these rallies.
Well, it depends. You got to ask Fauci. Maybe they did.
Yeah, according to, but this is stunning. 48.2% of the people who showed up at this rally. Now, I was noticing, we went through the process of trying to go to that rally in Erie, Pennsylvania, remember, but it was just too complicated. To get those tickets, you had to fill out some information. They're free. Everybody gets a ticket, but they, in turn, they mine you for information. And I would guess that if you're doing it now, they're going to mine you for more information. So this is telling me that the buckets in the sample of these polls are mostly wrong. Okay, they're
favored. Like the news polls. Yeah,
they're all wrong.
Totally wrong. Yeah. I think they just make it up, to tell you the truth. I don't believe they're actually asking anybody.
And then the performance, I don't know if you've seen these recent rallies, Trump has paid for these jumbotrons, and He's constantly, every time Biden makes a new screw up, his people update the video. I mean, they're freaking hilarious.
How many hard drives do they have? It's like, how could you possibly keep up?
And it's just, he's sitting there. I mean, to do this show indoors is, it might be a challenge to pull everything at the last minute, but we're not facing rain, cold, possible interruptions, heckling, wind, you name it. Technical problem, union issues,
access to things.
His real job, he may have to deal with a crisis in the Borno-Karabakh or wherever that place is, between Armenia and Azerbaijan. So we're just sitting here indoors, kind of vamping and talking about these issues. And this man is 74 years old. He was in the hospital a number of weeks ago. He's got multiple kids. He's got all sorts of family things he might care about beyond his political issues, and he's running like hell for re-election. Whereas Joe Biden, did you see the thing that happened yesterday with him and Obama?
Where he sunk the three-point basket?
No.
What?
They're at some, half-assed, venue with very few people. And it used to be that, the vice president would when Biden was vice president, he would be the one to introduce Obama. But now Obama's trying to whip up the crowd. He's going, here's Joe Biden, Joe Biden, Joe Biden. And there's no Joe Biden. He doesn't come out. It's like, he can't even run a half-assed campaign rally. He certainly can't manage his son and his family.
Oh.
I mean, he allows his son. We did that. We got really early on the Beau Biden Foundation for the Protection of Children.
Right.
How does Joe Biden as vice president sit down and decide, having left left D.C. in 2017 January, how does he sit through a meeting and conclude that his candidacy is viable? Right?
I think he's just so out of his mind, he's not able to reason.
Yeah. They set this thing up when Joe is vice president, right? That's how it sails through, because Obama's still,
right?
Well, tax exempt since January 2016. So that,
Oh, right at the end,
right.
They put it together.
No, at the end would have been 17.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
At the beginning of 2016, so knowing that he was going to go out.
Right, but how do you set up the Beau Biden Foundation for the Protection of Children, either knowing or not knowing, that the two co-chairs, if we go further down the page, well, let's stop for a second. The Beau Biden Foundation for the Protection of Children, not spelled right, children.
Oh my God.
Was created to honor the life of Joseph R. Beau Biden III, and to continue his life's work. Now let's just look at this sentence for a second.
Of smoking crack and abusing children?
No, that's Joe
That's
Biden.
the brother.
But was created to honor the life of Joseph R. Beau Biden III and to continue his life's work, no period. Or ensuring that all children are free from the threat of abuse.
Oh.
By making it a certainty that all children will be abused who have anything to do. I mean, if you go
No
down...
threat.
If you can go through the 990... We'll look at the fantastic board members here. You have, I think in the next page, there you go. You have Hallie Biden is the widow of Beau Biden. She is sleeping with Hunter Biden.
And Rudy revealed she also has a crack problem.
Right.
Which explains the romance.
Right, exactly. And you have, I don't know if Ashley Biden was abused or not. That, I think, is the Jill Biden's child with Joe Biden. So that's, I think, Ashley is Hunter's half-sister. And then down from the very beginning, you have, look who's on this board, further down. The Honorable Louis Freeh, former head of the FBI under Clinton.
Who are these other people?
We could go into that at another moment. There's some wild people. But the point is, you're sitting there, you've had this fake charity up and running, there are other Biden charities up and running. You've allowed this ne'er-do-well son of yours, Hunter, has been on more than 400 Air Force Two trips, minding business for him, kicking you back money somehow.
Yeah.
And you decide it's a good idea to run for president against Donald Trump. I mean, you must think that you have the FBI completely wired and the Department of Justice completely wired.
Hey, wait a minute.
Right. And if you do think that, why are you able to think that, and why hasn't Trump gotten to the bottom of this much, much sooner? I mean, it's obvious that the fix is in here. It is obvious that Christopher Wray not only needs to go, he not only needs to be prosecuted, he needs to be incarcerated for the rest of his natural life, and not at a country club prison. I mean, this is somebody who has been dirty, I would argue, for a long, long time. Who was inserted into the Trump administration as he was the insurance policy against, or part of it, against Donald Trump, because he had been... Wray, because he was in theory a Bush nominee, George W. Bush nominee into the Justice Department. So he was the insurance policy who, going back to 2003 to 5, was somebody, who had been in charge of the criminal justice division of the Justice Department, the criminal division of the Justice Department, and had obviously, or most likely, been involved in the decision, the false and wrong and incorrect decision, not to prosecute the Clinton Foundation in 2004 and 5. So this, again, I go back to base principles. Before, for example, I would decide to climb Mount Everest. You know, I have a friend who did it, and I should say he decided, I have an acquaintance who decided to do it. And he was in pretty good shape.
But it doesn't matter. You need to train like a boxer.
And he didn't, and he had a heart attack, and he didn't die. He didn't die, but I mean, it was a brutal experience. So before, and that's got to be easier. Climbing Mount Everest is probably easier than managing the federal government today, given the division.
Well, I don't think you can.
If you're 50, you know, not if you're 74. I mean, 74 would be impossible, but this guy was 50 when he tried it, and he was in decent shape. His sister was I'm not going to say who it is, but his sister was a professional tennis player. He had been an athlete his whole life, and he just said, I'm going to climb Mount Everest. Like,
I had dinner with the only guy to do Mount Everest climbs without a tank. There's a way to do it where you acclimate yourself, and then what the guys, because we were going to do an IMAX movie in 3D about climbing Mount Everest. And I was like, how the hell am I going to get up there? And they're like, don't worry, you're just going to base camp, which was 16,000 feet. Anyway, but so this guy said that because of the way he did that with acclimating himself, when he came down...
He had a problem.
No, he was like super energized and crazy oxygenated. And his wife was always encouraging him to do these Mount Everest climbs because apparently it's like natural Viagra when you come down the thing.
Yeah. But anyway, so back on the question of the Bidens. If you're sitting there as Joe Biden, you've made a decision in 2016 not to run, right? Now, why did you decide not to run in 2016? And apparently there was a lot of chatter coming out that Obama wasn't necessarily all that much in favor of it. Of Biden succeeding him. And so, big brouhaha. I guess they probably figured that Biden wasn't smart enough to cover up the crimes then, and they needed a real crook in Hillary Clinton to try to do that for him. And it does make sense. I was talking around to some of my international friends today, this morning and early afternoon, and I was saying, the epitaph on Joe Biden's career will be written. It may not be written Wednesday morning. It may take time to sort through all these election results. There may be challenges or whatever. He's going to lose. He has lost. But the epitaph, part of his epitaph, unlike the one for Sean Connery that's glowing already, the tributes around the world from all sorts of people love the guy. His epitaph is going to be that he was too stupid to price his services as a traitor properly. I mean, if you're going to sell out the United States of America to the Chinese Communist Party, to Russian spies,
at least make it a payday.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, go for $100 billion minimum. $5 million? Are
you stupid?
Exactly. I mean, you'll sell your country out for $40 million in a car. I mean, you should. It should be. No, it's tough for any individual to have $1 trillion, but it should certainly be $100 billion, if not a lot more than that. And I bet you these various people were just sitting there, the spy chief of China and the spy chief of Russia, whoever he or she may be. They probably come back from these meetings and they say, you're not going to believe what the Bidens want. All Biden wants is more crack for his son.
I was going to say, that crack sure works.
All he wants is some crack and a few more of our Russian hotties and the Chinese hotties from Swallow School in Russia. That's the bird.
We're getting so far off the rails here, Charles.
No, the bird. That's the bird with a W.
Yeah.
2 W's.
Oh, no, I got it.
Yeah. Anyway, So, and he's prepared to give it up for 10% of some joint venture company that might fling him off 30 or 40 million. I mean, it's just, on the one hand, it's amazing to me, the risk profile of Biden himself, who people tell me, and I don't know if it's reliable or not reliable, that when Biden was a young senator back in the 80s, 70s and 80s, when cocaine was a thing,
he was doing
that supposedly. And the fact that the FBI did not know about all of this, given the intrusive, we see how intrusive the FBI can be today, and the FBI has only increased the power that it may have as a guest and other security services to spy and snoop on people. You know, it seemed to me that there ought to be, in some of these fancy clubs that you try to get into,
that one
might try to get into, whether it's, you know, a WASPy thing or a Jewish thing or whatever, the clubs tend to have what's called a green light committee, and they don't want, some clubs have a view that if you propose a member and the member does not get in, you have to resign. So they want to make sure that you don't just bring any old
riffraff.
Well, not so much riffraff, somebody who wouldn't fit into the club, you know, for whatever reason. If the club has this kind of a personality that's really staid and conservative, you don't want to bring in Hunter Biden as your membership chair. I mean, or
does it smell like crack in here?
Or who's that guy at the Finn down in Lifer Key? We walked by his building, the designer.
Oh, Nygaard.
Nygaard, yeah. Nygaard lives on the Lifer Key campus, but he's persona non grata in the Bahamas now.
But something happened where they're going to drop the charges or something. I caught a little something about him.
But so back on the club, you would think for the task of being president, for the task of being a cabinet official, for the task of being a senator or whatever, or a high person on the staff, that you would have to undergo a serious background check. I mean, a really, really serious where you'd have to disclose all of your financial assets, that you would have to...
all the crackheads in your family.
All the debts you may have to the mafia. I mean, you would have to disclose all of this, and then there should be a system of monitoring. You know, if Donald Trump becomes president, and next thing you know, Barron, you know, is given an aircraft carrier by, you know, something to play around with on the weekend, somebody should say, "Hey, Barron, how'd you get that aircraft carrier?" "Oh, Dad said it was a spare one. Hillary has one." You know, I mean, there should be a way of running all this down. And the fact that the Democrats would let this idiot loser come in and rig the primaries the way they did, keep him in the campaign when there's so many obvious defects in this person, whether it's his mental state, his health, his cognitive ability, his common sense, if he has any left. As Trump says, I like the way Trump says, in his good days, he was shat.
Right.
S-H-O-T, but pronounced S-H-A-T. And Biden is just shot.
There's something else strange, Charles. You know, when I was in LA making money running 21st Century 3D, I wasn't picking up my laptop from the fix-it place. There's like, what the hell? Hunter Biden is like grifting all this money. Doesn't he have a personal assistant to pick up his crack evidence laptops from the repair place when he's out of town?
Well, that's a George Carlin thing. Everybody knows somebody who's lower than him. I mean, who would work for Hunter Biden? I mean, that's got to be, you'd be sweeping.
He's got millions.
Well, you go down the street, pick some homeless person off, and then would you trust that person to actually come back with a...
Couldn't have done a much worse job than Hunter Biden of leaving the evidence right in the thing.
Well, as the flip case of what happened in the abdication in England, where the king stepped down because of Wallace Simpson, the flip thing is happening with this laptop from hell story. The Daily Mail has a piece in today they've analyzed more of the emails, and they discovered that on, I don't know if it's another laptop or the laptop in question, that there are a whole bunch of emails between Joe Biden's, when he was vice president, his personal assistant or chief of staff or whatever, and Hunter. So remember, Joe's thesis was that he knew nothing about what Hunter was doing, and that's why Hunter went on 400 trips on Air Force Two over the course of 8 years and did all these dodgy things.
Huh. I'm looking for your article, Charles, and I see here that the Women for Trump Facebook has been reinstated. I was going to respond to their tweet because Trump said, "Oh, bring him back now." They've kicked out Crowdsource the Truth for no good reason.
Yeah. Facebook has, that's true.
Yeah. And I saw this, that Trump said, being restored immediately. Huh. Enforcement error.
Yeah, but you see, at this stage, they should have done something. They should have done something 2 weeks ago. And the problem is, there's no way. What's this? Yeah, did you see this?
Badaka Thaka care.
Badakath care. What the hell does that mean?
It means he's on the verge of passing out every minute you see him.
I mean, it's really gotten to the point that it's a curb your enthusiasm moment with this guy. I mean, he's done an effective job of it himself.
Well, I mean, you had brought up a couple shows ago that sort of rubbery fish Christmas gift.
Oh yeah, the bass, the talking bass.
They should run that instead of Joe Biden. That would be a better candidate than Joe Biden. At least that thing can sing a song without making a mistake.
You should get that fish mocked up and have Joe Biden sayings with it.
I'm Joe Biden and I approve this fish.
And I'm running for Senate.
I just see no possible way that he's going to win, Charles. And a lot of people do call me and they say, oh, they're worried. And I say, are you watching Fox News? And they say, yes. Turn it off.
Right. Well, let's put up that Electoral College map. There's
sure.
Greg, what's his name? Is it David Rubin or somebody? Somebody has been saying that has the map up and says that Trump is going to win with a landslide of 406, I think he says.
Which one you want? This?
Anyway, one like that's fine. Okay, that's good. So this can't be right. Isn't it 538?
Huh?
How can you have 163 Trump and 290 Biden?
No, they just made it up.
But it doesn't, they're leaving stuff out.
It's part of making it up. I didn't want to confuse you.
All right, so let's go through the many ways in which this is wrong.
Because it says likely, unlikely.
Oh, I see. All right, so toss up. Let's take the ones that are certainly wrong. Florida is definitely going to be Trump. Okay, so that's 29. Georgia is going to be Trump. North Carolina is going to be Trump. Pennsylvania is going to be Trump. Michigan is going to be Trump. Wisconsin's going to be Trump.
What about Minneapolis?
Minnesota is going to be Trump.
Minnesota, yeah.
New Hampshire is going to be Trump. There's a possibility that Virginia is going to be Trump. Nevada is going to be Trump. And there are people who call for the landslide, suggest that maybe Washington and Oregon, for different reasons, might actually vote Trump. And the reasons are, in Seattle, you have the CHOP. In Portland, you still have all the mayhem.
Yeah.
Both states actually have large black populations, and in the cities particularly. And nationwide, there's some polls suggesting that 31% of the black population is going to support Trump. So if you have a state that's been ravaged by incompetent left-leaning communist goons, and I'm talking about the governors now and the mayors, not Antifa in addition, and you've had to live through that or leave those states.
Yeah.
And remember that each of Washington and Oregon have rural, big rural communities. Some are really left, some not so left. But anyway, you may have in Washington and Oregon a much smaller popular vote victory than Hillary Clinton earned in 2016. Another thing to remember is 2016 was an historic election year from the standpoint that Hillary was expected to win and become the first female president. So there were people, men and women, who were all in for that. And
just for that reason.
And were just going to vote for Hillary, ignoring the stench, which was tough to ignore.
But they wanted a woman to be president.
Yeah, we want a crook. We want a crooked woman to be our first president.
I gotta say, I understand that feeling. That was a big driving factor for me. I wasn't as engaged back then as I was now. And the fact that Barack Obama was black, I was like, let's have a black president.
So in 2016, the idea was Bonnie was dead, so let's put a Bonnie and Clyde fight, let's put Hillary in. But anyway, so I think the margins of victory will be much smaller. There are some gigantic, spontaneous demonstrations for Trump in Beverly Hills and other places in California.
Well, a lot of my friends in LA are sending me, because they're all pent up, You can't actually talk about supporting Trump if you live in California, particularly if you work in the film industry. So they are all calling me. Like, what's going on? I'm losing my mind.
Yeah, but especially because nobody's working in the film industry right now. So
well, that's no joke. That is for real. And the thing that people don't realize, while everybody is hating on Hollywood, all the people who are electricians and just regular people are freaking out because now they don't have enough hours from this year to get their health insurance, and everything with the union is getting screwed up.
I know. Let's continue. So California and New York, I'll be watching the margins of victory. I expect Trump will lose California. I expect he'll lose New York. But in most of these states, what you see in the ones that went for Hillary in 2016, you'll find that a majority of most of these states, of the counties, actually went for Trump. And it's the big cities that have concentrations of population in the blue states that drove it home for Hillary. I don't know if that dynamic is going to work in the same way. We've had a lot of migration from the expensive big cities. Where those people went, who knows? And people, I know people in New York, myself and yourself included, are really pissed off at the leadership in quotes, under de Blasio and Cuomo in the state. So I think California and New York will end up being a lot closer. And then when we go through these states that are on the side here, D.C. is a lost cause for many reasons. But Maryland, with 10 electoral college votes, is an interesting place. Let's go into Google and let's look at Maryland 2016 presidential vote results by county. And here's Google helping out, actually. They have, unless they were going to take this down. We want it, Wikipedia, yeah. All right, so if we go down the page a little bit.
We could make a website about Bill Clinton, call it Schlickipedia.
Which?
Schlickipedia. Bill Schlickster.
Yeah. Down the page, there's a section that goes results by county. Hit that one. Okay, now if we look at this, you see here, take Allegheny County. Trump won that 69 to 26%, 69% to 26%, right? That's a gigantic Trump positive,
crushing.
Right? Then look at, in Baltimore County, Hillary wins 218,000 to 149, but in the city, she wins 203 to 25. Right, so it's in Baltimore and in some of these bigger places, and Arundel County. I think that's where Annapolis is. I may have that wrong, but let's focus on Baltimore County. There isn't a better example of a completely fucked up city than Baltimore. I mean, New York is bad, but Baltimore has been under Democrat control forever. And let's punch in Kim Klacik, K-L-A-C-I-C. Now, this is a person who is remarkably, now she may not win, but she's the one who did that walk. She's raised $6.4 million.
I remember well.
And we did, I think, we put up one of the campaign ads of her. They're very, very strong ads. I'm not saying that she's going to win because this other guy, Mafumi, or however you pronounce his name, is deeply stuck in and into a city that is absolutely corrupt. So they may manufacture votes to stem the red wave. But there's a shot that Klacik does very, very well, not simply in Baltimore, but in as a role model for other people around the country, that people start saying, now, wait a minute. This person, she's beautiful, but she's also smart, and she's got a deft political sense, young, courageous, and her message and her ads are really fantastic. And we'll see. I mean, if she were by some miracle to contest in Baltimore or even win in Baltimore, Maryland could flip to Trump overall. So there's going to be, generally speaking, and most election nights I go to sleep at like 9:30. I have to form my views, and then I might stay up to 10:30. And I prefer to wait when there's all this prognostication. You don't know what California's going to do and stuff on the West Coast.
You don't want to waste time with that.
You just wake up in the morning and look at the result. Yeah, you know, see a little bit of it.
But just real quickly, still on Kim Klacik, she is really well positioned, I think, Charles, because she's kind of doing, from a marketing standpoint, the same thing that Ocasio-Cortez did. Because she's young and attractive and a minority woman, she appeals to a whole range of people who maybe aren't even political and weren't paying attention before she got involved.
Well, with one important difference. She has a brain that works.
Right. But I mean, I'm just saying strictly from the standpoint of like if American Idol were a show for selecting a candidate,
Right.
Simon Cowell would vote for her.
Yeah.
You're appealing. People are going to want to
Right.
engage with that and just see what she has to say.
Yeah. But he would vote for her both before and after he broke his back.
I didn't know much about that, but I find him funny when he's insulting people who can't sing. People think he's mean, but
I think it's hilarious. But it's like Richard Pryor, pre and post fire. I mean, you change a little bit. And
he was funny after he blew up too.
Anyway, he was very funny.
Yeah.
Maybe Hunter has a career ahead of him in comedy.
He hasn't blown up yet, though.
No,
but that was freebasing. I mean, that was essentially smoking crack, what Richard Pryor was doing.
And what is that song? What is that show? Jay and Silent Bob, where they have the...
They Strike Back.
Where they have some smoking weed, whatever.
Oh yeah, he's always singing this song. I don't know. People got to look that up. Jay and Silent Bob.
But so back on the electoral map for a sec, if you don't mind. I know we're jumping around. Sorry.
The map?
The whole map, yeah.
Where did we have that?
There you go. Okay, so Iowa is not a toss-up. Ohio is certainly not a toss-up. Illinois is hopelessly corrupt, and so much is concentrated there in Chicago and to a lesser extent in Springfield. The people in Illinois have to be the remaining people in Illinois have to be so dissatisfied with Lori, aptly named Lightfoot, the mayor of Chicago. I mean, she's not Lightfoot, she's like No Feet. She looks like a character in The Simpsons, frankly. But
well, I was going to bring up an image of her so that we could just compare.
There
you go, Lori Lightfoot.
That's Hillary.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I thought
On a good day.
Yeah. Went to Juilliard. And, sorry.
But so the map?
Yes.
Okay. So Illinois, by all rights, it has disastrous... It's going to go bankrupt. It should go bankrupt.
What happened to Blagojevich? He didn't do much of anything.
He hasn't... He's out, though, isn't he? Is he pardoned?
But he just like had one day on the news and then that's it.
Yeah, I think they probably told him, look, dude, do you enjoy living?
Yeah.
Quite a lot of murders in and around Chicago. But
maybe stay home.
You know.
Make a lot of phone calls.
So in summary, you look at this map... I think Rhode Island, my ancestor is spinning in his grave on that one, is hopelessly corrupt. I don't see Rhode Island flipping. I don't know about Massachusetts. Bobby Orr, the great hockey legend, has endorsed Trump.
Do people care about hockey who aren't Michael Moore?
People in Massachusetts love hockey, and in the Northeast, particularly given the Bruins.
Sorry to throw off the flow, Charles, but we've gotten another photograph of Lori Lightfoot from the audience here. It's a trap.
Oh, boy.
It looks good.
Yeah, she does look good.
Well, I think people have some pent-up Halloween thoughts that they didn't get to.
Right. But you do the math here. This is 163, so you add 29, add 16, add 15, add 18, add 6. Add another 6. You're way, way before you get to Arizona. Add that. Colorado and New Mexico, one of our most loyal viewers reminded me that both Colorado and especially New Mexico have a big petroleum and natural gas business that throws off a lot of income, not only to the employees, but to the state taxing authorities. Because in those industries, the states and localities levy taxes per unit of production, beyond the income taxes that employers and employees will pay. This person says that maybe, assuming Trump continues to outperform, which he is, I mean, the man is, here's a guy who's worth billions of dollars. I wish that I didn't get so many emails asking me for money, because that's like on the list of things that are not high on my priority list, giving a billionaire money is right up there. So that said, this man is and his whole family, they're all, and the Pence and his family and the others who could campaign, they're out there asking for the order. And Joe Biden is out there saying, could you switch the channel on the washer dryer? I mean, the TV over here? I mean,
no, he's telling people they need Birkenstock-a-thon a car, or whatever he said.
I know.
People are like, yeah, we need that. Vote for Biden.
Right. And then, so with these legends, you got Jack Nicklaus coming out, all these fantastic sports legends, and now rap musicians, and
Right.
all these different people. You're getting
Lil
a sense,
Wayne.
and you're getting these newspaper endorsements that Pittsburgh Post-Gazette endorsed a Republican for the first time since Nixon in '72. But
Ooh,
well,
not a good track record.
well, no, but the point, he got reobected. And after that, after that, not so good. But that means they probably endorsed Clinton. They probably endorsed Obama. But the point is, the big the momentum would seem to be for Trump. And I think to the extent people talk to other people about who they may be voting for, in these closing days, I think it's going to be cool to vote for Trump. And it's going to be, people are going to, you go and say, well, I'm voting for Biden. And if you're down there in Bushwick or, Williamsburg or Vermont or something like that, or out in Aspen, oh yeah, okay, that's great. But across the mass of the American electorate, I don't think it's cool to support elder abuse, both in terms of Joe Biden, and then in the term Jill Biden. They say women have a sixth sense for understanding what's going on in relationships. How can this doctor, and she's a doctor of education, not have known? She was the babysitter for the Biden family. Something was badly off with Beau and eventually the stepsister, and then Hallie and Hunter and his various and sundry family members. How could you not sense that?
Maybe she's smoking crack too.
I hope not. But
yeah, I hope not
it's just beyond bizarre. I mean, this is the kind of behavior that you expect to find in some remote island where incest is the only way to pass the time because you don't have cable TV or something. I mean, it's just
It's
ridiculous.
one of those things that's so far outside of normal behavior and thinking. It's difficult to even wrap your brain around. And not to derail Charles, but some of our viewers are telling us that it was meth that he was smoking in that picture. So that's much better.
Yeah, meth. Okay, that makes me feel better. Well, meth, you can at least earn a good living cooking meth, and it's very dangerous.
I think it makes all your teeth fall out, and they have all those websites of like, here's the person in January, and then in April after smoking meth, and they're like, look like a ghoul who's like 200 years old.
That's right.
But the other thing that people are asking about, Charles, and I know that you have an issue, I forget what it is, about GDP, but this came out that the GDP grew 33.1%.
Well, so GDP is an estimate that is meant to represent the economic activity within a country. Its predecessor was called GNP, without getting to the technical details. But GNP, the father of GNP, is a man called Simon Kuznets, who won a Nobel Prize in economics. I think it's Kuznets. Yeah.
There he is.
There he is. And he won the Nobel Prize in 1971.
Perhaps he knows Robert Davis Steele.
Does he?
I don't think so, but all these Nobel Prize people.
No, but this person, what's particularly noteworthy about him is that he was asked, I think, by the Roosevelt administration to propose a way of thinking about defining the course of economic progress in a country, in the United States. So he did his work and he sent it in with a cover letter to the Senate Finance Committee. And that letter is probably tough to find, that document, but people will find it, and it points out the many flaws in GDP. The GNP or GDP is a statistic that I would argue it weights public sector contributions, government spending, too heavily. It overcounts the benefit of public spending. It undercounts other things. And it's a little bit more complicated than the very simple idea that most of us could resonate to, which is, all right, how much money do you, Jason, don't say the word out loud, but do you earn each year, and do I earn each year, and how much do we spend? And then how much does everybody, excluding the public sector, how much does all the non-public sector activity invest in capital projects, i.e. long-term projects like buildings and you name it, factories.
Tunnels from Los Angeles to...
whatever. And then with regard to how much we make and we spend personally, We save the residual. I mean, in the old days, you had to save, you couldn't borrow. Now it's so easy to borrow with low interest
Well,
rates.
but it's all credit card spending anyway. What residual?
Well, that's the problem. I mean, so the way you think you should, GDP doesn't get into debt. It just focuses on how much people spend, how much they earn after tax, and it doesn't properly examine how much of that spending is either fueled by the access to credit or crimped by a lack of access to credit, and how much new debt is piled onto the economy. So it's a bad measure, and a simpler thing to think about is, as I say, how much you earn and spend, which means the key driver there is making the private sector, making conditions in the country conducive for people to want to invest in the private sector and turn around and hire employees. That you want to have
the opposite of smashing every business around.
Right, exactly, right. So you can go to your crooked banker, and when the building that used to be worth $100 million is now burned almost to the ground, you buy it for $1 million with a loan from a crooked banker. That's not the right way to go. And also, government spending, capital investment of the government is a big number, and they assume, conservatively they say, that all government investment neither makes money nor loses money, which is not conservative at all. There's a lot of government investment that shouldn't be done at all, and it is horrific and is malinvestment, and we're never getting it. We get a massive negative return on it, and it's buried and used as a way, as in the Clinton Foundation, of paying people off. You say that a bridge is going to cost $10 billion. You don't spend $10 billion on the bridge. You do get $10 billion from the government. You steal $9 billion, and you have a bridge that's going to fall down in 5 years. I mean, that's the so there are a lot of flaws with GDP, and cutting through all of that. And you know, when I first, after 2002, when I retired in July 2002, and began to think about the areas that I didn't feel I knew enough about and I wanted to study, one of them was, is GDP a good number or not? How do I judge where to invest money in a country? What's a better measure? And as I got into it, I realized that GDP sucks. I mean, you're embracing the suck if you focus on, you know, the 33%
Well,
number.
I was going to say, so does 33% of something that sucks equal fake number?
No. Well, it's a good headline, good number. It's a strong rebound from the voluntary and unwise, I would argue, shutdown that we went through. And like anything else, if you take a sucky approach, but you use that sucky approach consistently to examine a lot of other countries, the variances are actually meaningful. So if you do take the same, or even if it's wrong, take the same approach, apply it to every other country, and the United States looks like it's a lot better off using the sucky approach. You should.
So if you're going to suck, at least be consistent.
Consistently sucky, yeah. So we won't go down that road into that area. But the point here is that if we think about the rest of the world, the U.S. versus the rest of the world, we have the largest unified market, consumer and investment market in the world. Europe is blowing up. China is under siege and blowing up. China historically has been able to go forward with its approach of paying off politicians and stealing intellectual property and holding their subjects down so their wages are minimal. They've been able to get away with that because the Chinese people haven't risen up yet. But there's a big bill to pay inside China. They're not going to be able to do that forever. And as you start looking around the world and you see, on the one hand, you have to look at two near-term futures. A near-term future where Joe Biden somehow is president of the United States, Nancy Pelosi is Speaker of the House, and Chuck Schumer is Majority Leader in the Senate. And after you get done jumping off the 27th floor of some hotel like Steve Bing, you won't worry about it anymore. But that's a very grim future. Yeah. On the other hand, a future where Donald Trump is president, where he cleans house, drains the swamp, and whether with Pelosi as Speaker or without, retains control of the Senate, that's a future that is bright. And if by some miracle you get conservative, economically literate people in the House, that's a very bright future for this country. And Donald Trump doesn't have to fly across the Atlantic to sit down with 28 other European leaders or whatever to decide what the menu should be for the next banquet and talk about climate change. He doesn't have to do that. He doesn't have to deal with the public sector unions. He doesn't have to treat the leader of Luxembourg as an equal. I mean, the tiny little country. And so I would say the European model has come unstuck. The Asian model, the Chinese Communist Party dominance of China is not something you should count on forever for a 10-year investment period. And as you look around the world, if you happen to have capital and you want to invest it, the US looks like a pretty good place if Trump wins. And we just need to wait until Wednesday morning, or maybe it takes a little bit more time, depending on the outcome of this election, to figure out whether Trump is going to win or not win. As I say in the Tehran Times article in so many words, if Trump loses, you are talking about the collapse of the global economy, potentially. I mean, you really could see, I mean, we see in New York, we are experiencing the collapse of a municipal economy. Businesses have fled and are not coming back. The businesses that pay workers large sums of money, like investment firms and consulting firms, they're leaving New York City, and they are not going to come back to the extent they can get away with it. So we knows.
I think there's a lot of businesses that aren't going to come back. This is breaking news right here, Charles, from our friends at the Gateway
hilarious.
Pundit. Laura Loomer apparently has identified a Kamala Harris body double. I just saw this in our
That's
chat.
hilarious.
Yeah, Laura Loomer is going to be a embedded investigative journalist in Congress in a matter of days. How do we get to the video, though? Trending. Holy crap. I don't want to see cats.
Keep going down.
It's just
down.
cat videos. Oh.
There you go.
Laura Loomer for Congress. But how did she realize that it was a fake Kamala Harris? Here we go. Here, let's see if we can get audio on this. I hope
that's hilarious if true.
Owns this won't.
Jim Hoff will.
Yeah, they
you
won't.
Just
get
had
angry.
him on.
But the audio wasn't working properly before for some reason. Let's see if it works now.
How could Kamala Harris be in Florida?
Apparently she's not. Let's see what Laura discovers.
Where? Yeah, it looks. She looks thinner, and her cheekbones look higher than Kamala Harris.
That's not Kamala Harris.
You guys were her sorority sisters?
That's not Kamala Harris. It looks nothing like her. Very deceptive to the voters to send body doubles out.
Laura's
Very
rolling.
deceptive. It's a fake Kamala Harris.
So Laura determined that it was not Kamala Harris. I thought we might see the mask come off. But isn't that interesting, Charles? It does present a lot of opportunity to put somebody double behind there. I'm not sure how it was definitively determined right there that was not Kamala Harris.
I mean, you could look at Kamala Harris, Google Kamala Harris.
The eyes not
No, just
like...
Google her schedule for today.
Huh.
Was she in Florida? Yes or no? I mean, you saw how she and the Biden bus got chased out of Texas.
Yeah. Well, what I saw was one car without a Trump flag going out of the lane, almost crashing into a car with a Trump flag. And then they said, oh, the Trump people somehow attacked.
No, I don't think they did. But I mean, I think what the spontaneous, I mean, I don't know if you focused on the crowd sizes. Have you seen any of these?
It's huge for Trump.
Pushing 60,000 people.
57,000.
In a rural location in Pennsylvania.
I think it's going to be historic.
Charlotte says she campaigns across Florida.
Yeah, I don't know. I would have asked her to take the mask off to prove that it wasn't her. But it sounded like her. I'll have to talk to Laura.
Nonetheless, it wasn't as if she had this gigantic... She was not the Pied Piper of Florida. It's not like she was dragging tons of people to the event.
Probably more people were there to see Laura.
Exactly. Exactly.
I love it that she's campaigning and still, like, reporting.
Right. Yeah, I hope Laura, she was good on our show on Wednesday, and she's tireless. She's got a bright career, I think, ahead of her. But let's go into these rallies a little bit. Do you have pictures of any, like what was it, Butler, Pennsylvania, yesterday? I mean, look at that.
Newsweek, logistical nightmare? Well, that's going to be fake news.
No, this one here. Trump nears end of campaign. I mean, I mean, the picture of this, the video of this is just amazing.
Tons of people.
And then by contrast, let's do Biden rally and let's see what that looks like. Detroit, I think, was a recent one.
Didn't he have some sign like in?
Yeah, this one here. Here, you just hit this. This is C.
Wasn't he like in Iowa and it said like "Welcome to Florida" or something like that?
Yeah. I mean,
well, how many people have cars here that maybe think it might have been made in Detroit? It's like, what are you talking about, Joe?
I mean, look at this. There's nobody there.
He's a dope.
Absolutely no one. Must be logged in. I mean, this is pathetic.
Motor City.
And here's how can you walk and strut like this in front of nobody?
It's Obama.
I know, but how do you do that? I mean, if I were Barack Obama, former president of the United States, I would say to the campaign, listen, I'm the dude who walked on water in Berlin in 2008, if you remember that, or the Denver one where he had this, I don't know how many people in Denver. I am not going to some strip mall to speak to 20 people.
With a bullhorn.
Yeah, to speak to 60 people. Honk if you like Joe. I mean, I'm just not going to do it. And you can't adopt this as if I'm Winston Churchill speaking to the English Commonwealth on a radio, standing like this and talking. You're talking to 20 people, and nobody cares, frankly, at this stage about your accomplishments because very few of them stand at this point.
What is the purpose of texting MI to 30330? Well, I don't know what that does. I've never done any of that. Text something to...
Oh, I think it then gives you a chance. You're texting...
Blow up your phone with stupid texts from Joe Biden?
And to give money. You text MI and then you get a prompt saying how much money do you want to give. And not that I would ever do it.
Or maybe they just charge it right to your phone for texting them. That would be tricky and smart of them.
But then, as I understand, it was kind of cold in Michigan yesterday.
It was cold here yesterday.
And so, I mean, the guy is wearing, he must be cold. And to talk like this, to try to whip up the enthusiasm for a dolt, I'm smart, vote for Joe. It doesn't work.
Well, the three-point shot was more impressive than anything he did while he was president.
Well, did you get to see him? Actually, the whole arc of as he likes to talk, the arc of history. Did you see the arc of the shot? Was it clear that
he actually, yeah, he's just like in some high school gym or something, and he's just like dribbling around, pretty relaxed, and and it goes right in. It was one of those things. I've told you the story about after a day of surfing with my friends, we went into the place and everybody was breakdancing, and I busted out a breakdancing move, and there's like that period of a small number of seconds where it's like that was the coolest thing ever. Unlike me, Obama wisely left right after that because it's not like try it again. It's like no, that's just one.
That is
with
one.
The camera rolling.
That is one. That could be a great opening scene for a movie.
But it was impressive. I mean, it's impressive in as much as if anybody makes a three-point shot in basketball, it's impressive. Doesn't make me like him more as a subversive Marxist maniac that he can play basketball.
Right. Well, but what part of, I mean, let's think about 2016. After Hillary finally lost, Barack Obama derisively said, if you want to win a political campaign, it's kind of useful to show up. He said something like that about Hillary. How would you agree as Barack Obama to support this guy now? The only way you agree is if you're certain that George Soros has paid enough money to steal, or people like him, to steal the election. I mean, there's no way that Biden wins this election, electoral college by state, legitimately.
I agree.
Based on his absence of a sensible
brain
of anything, frankly. He's got no plan. The manifesto is basically a communist manifesto that will never work.
But it's just not even consistent from 1 minute to the next. I saw some video yesterday where it was like, I will not ban fracking. And it's like, wait a minute now.
Which one are you? Which
Joe Biden? Because also everybody who wants to vote for you hates it that you just said.
Yeah. I mean, they used to have that ad campaign on the subway a long time ago, a mind is a terrible thing to waste.
Luckily, Joe Biden's not breaking that law.
Yet, or did we already put up this Detroit rally? I think they had the Stevie Wonder. The end of it, they had Joe Biden dancing.
But the thing is, if I play that,
don't play it. Don't play. I would just go into Google and put in signed, sealed, delivered, and lyrics, and I think you get right away to
Stevie Wonder.
Yeah, all right. This is the first sentence. Like a fool, I went and stayed too long. That's the opening sentence of a man who spent 47 years in government. Now I'm wondering if your love's still strong. Oh, baby, here I am, signed, sealed, delivered. I'm yours. The man who sniffs little girls, hangs around, come and talk to me afterwards, little girl, who's got a book out alleging that he tried to rape Tara Reid. This is what you're going to start with? I mean, who is in charge of this freaking campaign? Who is in charge of the Democrat Party? You can't make this kind of decision. And the thing goes on. Then a little bit further.
I've done foolish things
that I really didn't mean, didn't I? I mean, it's like, you can't put this as your theme song. And then he tries to dance because Trump's dancing. Trump's dancing is hysterical.
Yeah.
Ivanka says, now let's do the Trump. He goes like this, Jason.
No, I saw it on, before they hated him, Trump hosted Saturday Night Live at one point, and they had that, when Drake had that song that was popular, they had Trump in the Drake video, because Drake was being made fun of for dancing ridiculously, so they had Trump dancing.
That was pretty funny. But anyway, so we've got, our next show will be, I guess, Wednesday, after we may know the results. Now, there's Wayne Allen Root, who is a smart guy whose original business was as an odds maker. And he's betting, he says, that we're going to have a protracted period like 2000 where we're not going to know the results.
I don't agree with that.
I don't either, but that's what he's saying. He's saying that there's going to be challenges, that Bob Bauer, who was, I think, White House counsel in Barack Obama's first term, has got a team of like 10,000 lawyers that are around the country that are already set to challenge everything.
Oh my God.
And that will, he argues, lead to mayhem. I'm not buying that. I think, people in 16 were reluctant to explain that they might vote for Trump. And they were even more reluctant to admit it after Trump won in places like New York City. I remember when Trump won, I was in the McDonald's on 6th Avenue and in the 20s, talking actually to Kathleen Willey. And we were joking about how great it was, and I might have been speaking in too loud a voice, and this homeless guy came over and took the remains of his tray and just slammed it on my table and walked out. Like he was making, I had nothing on the table, so it didn't bother me, but I mean, I'm making a statement. I'm going to put my crap on your table.
French fries flying everywhere.
Well, it was breakfast food,
Hash browns.
Everywhere. A McGriddle. What's left of a McGriddle?
I don't know, Charles. That's not a good environment over there.
I haven't been there. I'll probably never go back.
I'm glad to hear that. Now, Charles, there's something very upsetting that happened yesterday. It's important. We've got a lot of people watching us right now, and I hope that everybody watching knows about Crowdsource the Truth 2. That is just an alternate YouTube channel that's a mirror of all the stuff that I do on Crowdsource the Truth. And I'm going to give everybody, I think you'd call this in Japan, a peek behind the kimono, Charles. Yeah, this is like the creator interface for YouTube here. And I think you can see this eyeball with a slash through it in a Dali-esque sort of en chien andalou tribute. But this was for Ghost Town, NYC. Cuomo and de Blasio take the FU out of fun. And as you can see, it's blocked. But see, the interesting thing is when I click on this video, it gives me a variety of options here. The blockage is due to a copyright claim. And when I asked to see the details, I came home yesterday after what was a very interesting live stream, because when I was in Times Square, I encountered a woman who grew up in Hungary, communism obviously, and she had a lot of firsthand information and things to say about the problems with socialism and communism, and she voted for Trump. Then I had a conversation with some very spiritual black, I guess you'd call them youth. They were younger than me, certainly. and had a really nice conversation with them. So I think this video was loaded with things that the neo-communists who want to take over our country didn't want people to see. Black people being nice to white people being friendly with black people who've experienced communism speaking sensibly about why we cannot have that here in the United States. So this video got blocked because of this. I can't play it, or this video will get blocked, but it's a talking about like a 15-second segment here where we can see it's on behalf of Jay-Z, who hangs out with Marina Abramovich and drinks blood or whatever they're doing with their stupid, what is it called? The witch brew? Spirit cooking. Yeah. So, okay, originally for this select action, it was like, you know, delete the video and re-upload it, cut out the section with the music, or just mute this section. And I chose, you know, mute just the music. And you can see now that I can't even change my choice because it says it's still processing. It's going
to be processing till about November 6th.
Right. It's been more than 20 hours, I think, that it's been processing, and this video is blocked all over the world, which is pretty upsetting to me because the video, I think, contains important information, and also a lot of people were watching it. It was kind of starting to, you know, maybe go mini viral as far as Crowdsource the Truth goes. And in a risky maneuver that might get another video blocked, I want people to know about Crowdsource the Truth 2, which has only 24,000 subscribers, and so the video's gotten far fewer views, but it did not get any disruption on Crowdsource the Truth 2.
Yeah, well, we'll watch it get blocked right now, probably. But.
Well, I think it's because we've got social engineers who monitor my channel and then complain about things. If they do that now, it'll just be more evidence proving what I'm saying.
Here, 4,400 views.
That's not a lot from yesterday. That's less than what the thing had when it ended.
But this is on 2.
I know, and I'm saying on Crowdsource the Truth 1, the video had over 4,400 views like the second the live stream ended.
But I'm saying, wouldn't you add the total? So you've got 5,000 on the blocked one and 4,000, so you're at 9,000, which is pretty good.
But the point is,
it's not as good as it could be, but it's, yeah. Well, how many does this view have? Does this have?
So this one, when we go back
6,700.
Where does it say that?
We're sorry, 4,400.
Yeah, 4,466. 66. And I mean, I can still view it, but people can't see it. And we can't see the comments.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, we can.
13 comments.
Unlucky for some, Charles.
Yeah, so a few words on that. So we entered, I don't know when, whether it was far back as Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and stuff, but certainly in the recent period, how many ads have we seen, if you see these ads, of some idiot scruffy getting up there and saying, home security will never be the same. You know, sign up for Ring. Sign up for this. The company always has like a single name or a catchy name that seems to have something to do. And you have this person who's, you know, less than 25 years old or 30 years old, dressed like a slob, telling you, you know, forget the world-leading security companies that have been handling this for a long period of time. Sign up with me, you know. And that business model is one that brought us Elizabeth Holmes at Theranos. You know, nobody's going to check this beautiful blonde in theory at the time because she's got some invention that'll revolutionize the world, and it's sexist to ask tough questions. And besides, look at all these old geezers on the board, George Shultz and other people. And so we're in this business model time after time. And last week, we got to see for the first time, at least I got to see for the first time, Jack Dorsey in full Osama bin Laden look. I mean,
unbelievable.
You got Elizabeth Theranos, should be living on a cardboard box somewhere. I mean, I hope she ends up in prison for a long time for what she did.
Have you seen this device, Charles?
What is it?
I mean, this is straight out of some Tom Selleck movie from 1980 where you have little flying robots going around your house attacking intruders.
I don't like that at all.
It's a strange thing.
Well, because that can be used to attack an intruder.
It doesn't attack. It just shoots video.
Right. I don't like that at all. But back on where I think we are, too many people have been trusting, and I'm not just saying this because I'm on the older side of the equation, too many people have been trusting these absurd claims that the people who operate YouTube will do so fairly.
No.
that, and Facebook fairly, and Twitter, and Google, and all these different places, and you can trust them. They're not going to let their biases creep into it. They're not trying to shape the way you think. They're not trying to interfere in an election. They're not trying to monopolize life.
This is just a glitch in the software.
Yeah, it's temporary, right? They haven't purchased a whole bunch of politicians and regulators around the world. They aren't set to, get even more power. No, these are people who are monopolists, who don't believe that national laws are as important as their global vision, who have been successful over decades in many cases, purchasing the levers of influence in many countries around the world, who profit from instability. George Soros, I'm thinking of there. And so when Trump gets up there and says, as he correctly does, this is the most important election in American history, maybe bar the election of 1960 and 64, I think Trump is right. And I hope people will vote having looked at the available evidence. As I say in the Tehran Times editorial, it's a very simple equation. Do you want jobs or mobs? Do you want to be a citizen or a subject? Do you want to think for yourself or do what the experts tell you to do? Do you want a builder or a bungler? It's that simple. And I just have enough faith in human nature that I can't believe, and I may be proven wrong, I can't believe that the number of people who would be prepared to cooperate in a conspiracy to steal an election across 50 states with different mechanisms in each state and different profiles in each state and locality, that they would prevail against the good and hardworking and loyal patriotic Americans of whatever their political perspective who want to see a free and fair election bring us the logical conclusion. I mean, I may be proven wrong. Maybe sitting here on Wednesday in handcuffs because
they take us out of here pretty quickly. But I feel there've been a limited number of times in my life that I have felt very certain about a technically uncertain outcome, and this is one of them. Yeah, I have no doubt that Donald Trump is going to win handily. I feel that we'll know that Tuesday night. And Joe Biden will go down in history as one of the biggest jokes and one of the biggest dopes. And this whole smoking crack.
We then have to have an award ceremony. Should that happen?
The Crony Awards.
I think we definitely, the most epic meltdown by a supposed TV anchor, Chuck Schumer's, wildest comments, Adam Schiff's, the watermelon head, falling apart, eyes popping out of his head.
Best watermelon head in Congress.
That's right.
Goes to Adam Schiff.
Eric Swalwell.
Well, Charles, if I prevail in Emmys or NATAS versus MSD, the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences, then that Crony Awards will be shown to be a fair use. We give out Crony Awards all day.
That's right. You could set up a foundation.
Exactly. 501c3 to give out Crony Awards. What crony would say no to that?
Well, there used to be a senator who did just that. It wasn't called the Crony, but he I gotta remember the name of it. But of course, the Razzies, which are the worst movies, but there was. He was a senator for, I think, Wisconsin. Maybe people in our.
And what was he doing?
He would give out awards each year for the most corrupt political activities.
How the hell did he do that?
Well, he was just a maverick. I think he was from Wisconsin. People will in the crowd will know of whom I speak, and perhaps I'll even remember it. But anyway,
William Proxmire.
Exactly, Proxmire. Exactly.
Oh, he died.
Still dead.
Yeah. Well, that was 2005.
And this would be when Hunter dies. It'll be Hunter Biden. What is it? Son of a vice president and senator who loves whores, died. Instead of
Golden Fleece. Oh yeah, they put out his bill from the strip club, and it was amazing.
Yeah, Hunter's?
Yeah, the porno website strip club bill was massive.
Right. I just, you're sitting there and you've been a senator for a long time. You lost your first wife in a tragic accident. You lost your daughter. Those, the emotional impact of that on children, surviving children, is massive. These are damaged souls.
Absolutely.
And requiring special care. I mean, you would think.
It's at least $11,000 worth of porn a month.
Of course I needed the bribe money. How was I going to pay for the porn?
It's medicinal, Charles.
Yeah. And then I think he was also uploading images of himself onto
Well, I
Pornhub.
think that's the thing, is that porn sites are now it's like YouTube. I don't know if there's as much porn production as there once was, because just like
COVID.
YouTube, why do you need to watch TV? You could get some crack and make your own porn.
I mean, it's just it's like they used to joke in business school. They try to explain synergies. What does synergies mean?
S-I-N?
No, S-Y-N-E-R-G. And they would take the example, if you want to have a shop that sold suntan lotion and umbrellas, then you sell the suntan lotion when it's sunny and the umbrellas when it's rainy, etc. I mean, this is, if you were trying to come up with a worse schmuck. I mean, we had Billy Carter, we had Roger Clinton. I mean, Biden, what's his name? Hunter Biden. This is a trail of tears. I mean, you look into his Wikipedia. How did this idiot get into Yale Law School? Answer, Joe was a powerful senator.
Right.
He transferred.
From where?
From Georgetown Law to Yale Law.
I'm surprised. I thought you were going to say like Connecticut Community College or something.
No,
not to insult that.
But to get into Yale Law School back in '96 or whenever it was, '93, that's difficult. Very, very difficult. Yeah. And so, to transfer. So it's one thing to be in the pool of applicants for, let's say, the 170 places, and it's very tough to get one of those spots. But after you've selected the 170, maybe 5 drop out. Now you've got 5 spots left, and there are a lot of people who want to transfer into Yale Law. To transfer is a miracle. And then to get, for this guy, then to get out of there and say, well, I'm not going to be a lawyer. Why would I do that? I just went to law school.
But he is a lawyer, isn't he?
Well, I don't know. I don't think I'm amazed he's not disbarred.
No, Bobolinsky said that he went behind his back and became the lawyer for the...
Yeah, that doesn't mean he's a lawyer. I mean, you could go down the street here on 7th Avenue, you'll find 4 or 5 bums.
Guy, lawyer.
Will say, I'm a lawyer. You need a lawyer? I'm a lawyer. Want me to be an accountant? I'm an accountant.
Yeah.
But I'll play an accountant. Anyway, so he goes to the typical course out of these prestige law schools is what you try to do, the top students. I mean, Yale Law School was famous as a place to go if you wanted to teach law. It was, for the really smart, brainy, professorial types, tend to be left-leaning. But they would all compete to try to be, they call them clerks, not interns, in either a judge, and the cream of the crop is to be a clerk, as Amy Coney Barrett was, for a Supreme Court justice like Scalia. I mean, that's a big deal. So those would be the top students at Yale Law School and Harvard Law School, et cetera, the ones who do that for a year. The next down would be the ones who go and sell out to the man and work for the Williams and Connolly, the Cravath, Swain and Moore, and all that kind of stuff. What are you looking for here?
Yale Law School.
There you go. Not very far away from Skull and Bones.
Right.
But you're not eligible to get into Skull and Bones other than as an undergraduate. So anyway, so Hunter, instead of going to be a clerk, I suppose he might have been a dealer, but not a clerk. but instead of being a clerk, instead of being working for a prestige law firm, he goes to work for a credit card company.
MBNA.
MBNA.
His father was passing laws so that they could make people go bankrupt.
Make it tougher for people to go bankrupt.
To declare bankruptcy when they owed them credit card money.
Right. So, but he gets a job. Nothing suspicious about this at all. He gets a job out of Yale Law School at MBNA, and within scant years, he's an executive vice president of a gigantic publicly traded company. MBNA is a huge company. I mean, he, of course, got that on merit. And then because he and his father had been on Amtrak as customers, they make him vice chairman of the board of Amtrak.
Yeah.
And then he gets involved. In my mind, other than Global Fund and UNITAID, the most notoriously corrupt portion of the UN is the World Food Program.
That's what Saddam Hussein did something with
oil. Exactly. It's oil for food. It is just so easy to scam money out of a program that's supposedly going to transfer food around the world. You're transferring it to places in the world where people are desperate. They'll kill for a loaf of bread, right? Nobody's going to check and see how much bread went into the Sudan or whatever.
Well, and what are they serving?
Right, and so Hunter goes on the board of the 501c3 that channels American money into this notoriously corrupt thing, which is done a joint venture, I believe, with the Clinton Foundation. I mean, this guy, I don't think he's the kind of person who, if we had a functioning CIA and securities apparatus, it would be like with those what did you call them, Tom Cruise drones flying around your apartment. You know, before you,
that's Jeff Bezos' drone.
Somebody would tap Hunter, on the shoulder in the middle of the night and say, Hunter, don't go to the interview. There's no point. You're not going to get security clearance. Like, forget it. Like, look at these crack bottles. Look at all this crack stuff. You're never going to get it. I mean, it's just, there's no way that Hunter Biden should have ever been on Air Force 1, 2, or 65. He shouldn't have been allowed inside the White House. He shouldn't have been communicating with all these people via email, on phones, and unsecure devices, and all this. He shouldn't have been hanging around doing whatever he was doing with his niece and other people, who I hope not with his own children. It's bad enough your niece, but God help him if he was doing something with his kids. This is a seriously sick person, and I'm no medical expert, and I'm not trying to diagnose somebody, but just look at the evidence. This man, Hunter, needs help. Other Biden family members need help, and Joe should be checked in, not to Walter Reed, but into an insane asylum. And the guy...
Well, I mean, serious question though, Charles, because, he's talking about all these programs of health care and giving everybody money. They didn't want to tax everybody. How about the fact that his own son is spending 11 grand on porn? Why don't you give some of that money to
Right.
people who actually need food?
Right.
Although I guess he's supporting the porn stars.
Well, yeah, think of the trickle-down effect. Or
exactly.
don't.
Oh. That's Joe Biden's new economic plan. What is trickling down remains to be seen.
That's right. That's the dribble-down economics.
Oh.
But no, I mean, when we get through this, should we get through this, and we look back at this period, I mean, I hope historians will look at this with clear eyes and say, how did the Democrats think? That's the crony wing of the Democratic Party, the dementia wing of the Democrat. How did they seriously think they're going to get away with rigging the Democrat primaries in 2016, attempting to rig the election in general in 2016, then mounting a resistance where they directed loyal elements and corrupt elements throughout the government to attack a sitting president using taxpayer funds, do that for 4 years, and think that they were going to rig the primary successfully and the election again? How did they think they were going to do that?
I mean, my question is, how did they think all this crack business wasn't going to come out? They had to know about it. I was actually going to the New York Post to try to get to the original story, but now they're saying that cops are clashing with anti-Trump protesters, 3 arrested.
Where is this?
I don't know, but when could it have been happening?
It's today.
Cops and anti-Trump protesters clash in Manhattan on Sunday.
Can we tell where that is?
Well, it says Manhattan.
Look at these. These are not cops. Look at these black helmets and these batons.
No, that's the Antifa.
But it's a uniform.
Oh, really?
Right? It's the same sort of uniform.
Well, these are like SRG cops, Special Response Group.
On the far side, but what we're seeing, there's a photographer. Look at the guys with the backpacks.
Yeah, that's Antifa guys.
But where is that in Manhattan?
I don't know. It's low buildings.
Could it be Columbia? I think that could be
up. I must say. So it says...
Oh, no, right near here.
10th. Holy crap. What are they doing over there?
What time was this story?
I don't know. I mean, it must have just come up
2:26.
2:26 p.m. It's a good thing we didn't go over there.
All right.
Oh.
That's pretty close by.
Getting ready to tie people up. Well, it's interesting because when you arrived, we were talking about how I hadn't heard of any violence last night. Anti-Trump demonstrators had gathered at Madison Square Park to confront pro-Trump caravans crisscrossing the New York region ahead of Tuesday's thing. So they wanted to confront.
Mm-hmm. No justice, no peace.
Now, is this a cop? It is.
That's
police
a cop.
Bicycle. And then...
That's quite a thing.
Yep. strategic response group.
But I think what we're going to see here when the results are counted, it would be really interesting. We may not be able to do it as soon as Wednesday. We may have to wait till this forthcoming Sunday. But to contrast whatever the estimates are for 20 versus 16 state by state will be very, very interesting. Very interesting.
It's going to be a swath of red, Charles.
Well, it'll be interesting to see, how many Bernie bros and sisters either didn't vote or voted for Trump. That's going to be some would probably, as Obama always said during his presidency and afterwards, some would say, about some straw argument, but some ridiculous straw man argument that the percentage would be less than 1%. I wonder if it's more like, the people who voted Bernie or wanted to vote Bernie in 16 or voted Bernie in the primaries in 16, what percentage of them voted for Hillary? And then that same pool, what percentage of them vote for Trump in 2020? And I would have thought it might be more like 10 or 15%. I think there are a number of people who look at this and don't necessarily love the Democrat label and brand. And after all, even Bernie, there's an attractive look.
Yeah.
Have you noticed these people are all so angry? Why? This is the richest country on earth. What are you so angry about? You got 3 homes. You didn't have to go to prison for your wife's charity fraud. And you're angry? You got a pension. You got a salary.
I can't get a good haircut.
And then why are people so supportive of this guy? It's like they remind you of your angry grandfather. Fortunately, I've always had grandparents who were very nice, friendly.
Yeah. Where's the damn remote? One of you has it.
That's right.
Bernie, I don't know.
How come there's no Pabst in the refrigerator?
Who drank the blue ribbon? Pabst. Oh wait, that's funny. It's what's his name?
Larry David.
Yeah, it's a very good imitation. So they've been going crazy with Jim Carrey on. That's going to cost a lot, I guess, to have Jim Carrey on Saturday Night Live several weeks in a row.
Do they pay for that, or is it free?
They have to pay him. At least
minimum wage. Wait, whatever the thing is.
Well, SAG scale, but I don't know. They must negotiate something with those famous guys who. It's not like Jim Carrey needs the promotion, but I think they do all have some kind of deep-seated love for Saturday Night Live, being comedians. Who knows? I found out that Saturday Night Live is getting around the ban on live theater shows by paying the people in the audience and saying that they're cast members. That's screwy business, isn't it?
How much do they pay?
That I don't know. But there's a lawsuit that's come up where the Broadway theaters are suing, I don't know, either Cuomo or de Blasio or something, and that fact came out.
Yeah, I think, I have to say on the Saturday Night Live, and I doubt there was one, was there one, will there be one tonight or not?
No, well, last night. It was,
last night?
They had it. It was Joe Biden, Jim Carrey reading The Raven, and then they had Kate McKinnon came in there as Hillary. I got to tell you, Charles, it was not funny. I'm fine with them making fun of Trump, and I even still like Alec Baldwin as a comedian and a serious actor, even though I totally disagree with his politics. He's been friendly when I've met him, and I've seen him a few times around New York City, but it was just not funny at all. And even the audience was kind of like, heh heh.
This isn't funny.
Yeah, they're like, we're on board with making fun of Trump, but
Yeah, you could take actual clips of Joe Biden.
It's funnier than that show.
It'd be really funny, Crowd size. Crowds are. I never did anything. My son. I never benefited anything from my son. And then you just pan to his 5 homes. I'm aware of 2, but where are his other 3 homes?
I have no idea.
The one in there in Wilmington is gigantic. Can you get a picture?
Yeah, and then somebody who is pro-Biden was telling me, oh, but he bought it in this year for the. I was like, you know what? I don't know enough about real estate stuff to argue with this person.
Well, let's look at that house for a second, because I know a little bit about it. And the challenge of a home like this that big, is not simply the purchase price; it's the maintenance.
So it was, I guess, a mansion in the photo is Joe Biden's house. But did they show that photo?
I think there'll be another story that will show it.
He's saying he's misidentified. The photo doesn't show his current house.
Well, let's look at his current house.
Bought it in 1975 for $185,000, renovated and sold it for $1.2 million.
Well, let's examine that for a second. $185,000 in 1975
a huge amount of
was
money.
A lot of money.
There. Ooh, that's a photo I hadn't seen of.
Yeah, can you make that bigger, or is that impossible? Let's look at this house for a second, okay?
Cool.
So, yeah, this is in Delaware. Now, Delaware is not as warm, not as cold as New York, but it does have winter.
Is it tennis in here?
I don't know. You know, where's the child sacrifice pit? But
this?
That's when you drive a car in to go around the circle.
No, that's the child sacrifice.
Oh, there you okay. Yeah. But I mean, this is a structure that is large, and I think you have spaces there for covered spaces for cars, or maybe that's a walkway, and that's a guest house. Look at the main house with two gigantic wings. I thought
this was a horse stable. No.
No, I think it's probably a guest house.
It's
not a horse.
Who has a guest house?
Everybody.
Oh.
Everybody has a guest house. Who
I
doesn't
see.
have one?
Right.
No, it's a horse's ass stable.
Exactly.
But you look at this. This just making sure the roof is properly taken care of, painting this sucker inside and out, dealing with the landscaping. You notice is immaculate.
But look at the pool cabana there. It's bigger than most people's house.
It's pretty big, and I bet you indoors has probably got a bar or something. You know,
He's got all his little floaties in there, pool noodles.
That's right. Yeah, and then it's got this big.
Oh, and he's
wall.
got a basketball court back here.
I can't tell what that is, but that might be a tennis court actually, covered over. But you look at this, and this is a house that was expensive to purchase, is more expensive to maintain, probably cannot be maintained without having help.
Right.
Help is extremely expensive.
Gardeners and
you had
housekeepers.
to pay them properly, which of course Biden would probably have Hunter take care of that, or have the Ukrainians pay for that. Yeah. Russians can pay for that. Chinese like that. You know, there's a little place for children to play. You see that?
Oh wow, I hadn't even noticed that.
Yeah.
He's got the sniffing garden.
This is something that probably the taxes on this, I would guess, are at least, people can look it up, probably at least $20,000 a year, if not more than that. And let's assume he somehow figured a way to pay the whole thing off. The maintenance budget should probably be $25,000 to $50,000 a year minimum. Then you have, let's say you have two people, you're paying each of them $35,000 or something like that. You start at, this is way beyond the means of somebody who's never really worked in the private sector legitimately.
Right.
And it's an absurd. Warren Buffett has made a tremendous amount of money, but Warren Buffett still lives in the house that he bought in Omaha from like 1960. Now,
really?
He also bought a very fancy house in California a while back, but his main home in Nebraska is famously tiny, and it's nondescript. This is the house of an egomaniac who has never actually accomplished anything, and it is just a sign that, you know, I need money. I can be bought off.
Where's the crack den?
I don't know.
Trying to find a picture of Warren Buffett's house.
Yeah. And people like, you know, the real estate barons like the Trumps. Back on the subject of two houses, if you have a big house and you have a lot of people over, and as your children get older, what you want to do is you want to have a second house on your property or a second structure so you can just put the people. I never on my property had a second one, but you put them in a separate structure so that the kids want to stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning with Joe Biden smoking crack.
Smoking crack, right. Warren Buffett's driving a Toyota Camry.
Yeah, he's notoriously frugal.
Wow.
But he does fly around in a corporate jet.
5505? Or those threes? Is it 3303?
I don't know where you're looking. Oh, over there?
Yeah.
I can't see it. It might be 33.
Really make it out. It might be 3303.
Then you're going to go crazier.
Hey, I mean, you know, I wouldn't be surprised.
He's everywhere.
Well, I didn't, you know, Warren Buffett is working from home. 89. I mean, I wouldn't call that small.
But it's in Omaha. I mean, it's not a gated mansion
I mean,
with a
given
turnaround.
that he's a super billionaire, he could have a sprawling thing.
He's the second or third richest man in the world. I mean,
it's modest for that.
Yeah. So we'll see, and we don't need to do much guessing as to what will happen on
$31,000 in 1958.
Yeah, so he bought it in 1958, and the 50s were booming, right? And to spend that type of money, I don't know what a senator's salary was in 1975. Maybe we could check. I don't think it was what it is today.
Is that when he entered 1975?
No, it said he bought the house in 75.
Ah, look at what we found, Charles. This is perfect.
Yeah. $45,000. How did he afford the house? Let's see what the salary
now.
Salaries now are $174. Yeah.
Oh, they've kept it at that for a while, which
they should.
Good. Yeah.
But let's go back a little bit into history to see how far back they show it. Well, we don't need to.
$6 per day. They should put it back to that. It's like, here's lunch money. Get the hell out of here.
So you put that into perspective. I mean, I actually love studying stuff like this, and I'm aware of somebody who found stuff worth a lot more than that back in 1864.
Oh, they got a salary cut here.
Yeah, well, but look at 1925 to 32. $10,000 per annum in 1925 to 1932 was a big, big salary.
But then they took a cut.
With the Depression.
And another cut.
Yeah.
They need a cut now.
But look, going from 55 to 54 to 55, right? 12,500. They almost double it to 22,500. Then they jump it again. And I love, what is this? Well, 79 to 83. They sit there. We're going to do 60,662 and 50 cents. Why don't you make it 57 cents? It's an absurd number.
It's 666.
Yeah, that's true.
They should have just done that. Well, I'll tell you, it's outrageous.
I mean, there's no way that Biden, financed. Not only, remember, he sent his children to private school, so there's no way he financed the commuting, the house, and there should be a way. It should be possible to go back and audit all this. And I'm not saying that only rich people should be in office, but I think that a test of whether you should be one of the 100 people in the country to serve in the United States Senate, to make the most important legislation, to engage in tough debates, to think about the long-term future of this country, a test of that should be whether you can manage your own household. And
no crack,
no
raping
porn,
children.
no foundations for the protection of children.
Charles, there was a dust-up, speaking of people...
Speaking of children?
Well, in Congress who are wasting money. Apparently AOC this outfit was like $15,000 or something like that.
Again, I don't think people... Vanity Fair is one of those magazines that is about as interesting to me as going into Bergdorf Goodman. I mean, I have no interest in looking at Vanity Fair, but I understand it's a stepping stone for people in fashion. And
I don't think that's what it is, because one of the editors is this guy.
Who Tucker loathes, right?
Well, they did have a really interesting interview where Eichenwald asked him, when did you stop beating your wife? Kurt Eichenwald is one of the people that I first encountered when I started doing Crowdsource the Truth. He's a blatant liar, and he was also one of the first people to kick off the mainstream reporting about the Russia hoax. He was on CNN. Here he is. And then somebody emailed him or tweeted something at him that he said gave him an epileptic seizure. This is an incredibly weird guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say. A nice scruffy look. There you go.
Yeah, I don't trust this guy at all.
Yeah. Again, I don't trust Vanity Fair at all. I mean, there are some.
He's an editor,
right? There are some. There's a good article I think about Doug Band on Vanity Fair. You do get some dirt and gossip out of it, but you got to check everything. Excuse me.
Comeback id. Where's Doug Band these days, Charles?
He's living in David Rockefeller's former townhouse and living large.
Huh.
For now.
I'm not too worried about
that's another point I'd like to make. Now, it's possible that, the other side will have the last laugh and I'll be, begging for mercy going into the winter in Alaska, hoping that, they don't send me to that prison that's right
You'd
next
be like
to...
Walter White in that house where the guy brings him food every 6 months.
Right, exactly. There is that probability. But there's another probability, which is the probability that investigations that have been in process for several years, that may have been held pending to see the outcome of the elections, that those investigations could well go rapidly towards the jugular of intended targets, not merely because the targets are so juicy and so vulnerable, but because the conspiracy is so vast and there's so many players and enough of them. It's like any cartel. The weakest link sinks the cartel.
That seems to be Hunter Biden.
Well, when we think about the Clinton Foundation, there are many other people we could think of, whether it's Eric Braverman or Andy Kessel or the accounting firms. There's a lot of people. And here's Graham. We'll see if he wins.
Well, you know what? When you were talking about Christopher Wray before, he's in on it with Christopher Wray. He gave a really ridiculous performance at the Christopher Wray confirmation hearing. And I, almost more than ever before, had this really strong sense, if people ever get an opportunity to go back to like a live theater production, again, pay close attention to how realistic the acting seems when you're watching a play versus how realistic it seems when you're watching a movie. Because we're all so conditioned by movies and motion picture entertainment that it seems real to us, but there's this artifice, there's this kind of artifacts in between you and the reality of the frame rate, the resolution, whatever. When I was in that room with those jokers confirming Christopher Wray, I felt like I was watching a high school play, like bad acting.
Right. Yeah, it could be. Now, this is interesting here. You see this one in the middle? The Daily Beast. Russian media's final election push for Trump. Live screening Hunter Biden's sex videos.
Whoa.
Now, during prime time, almost daily, is this on RT?
I don't know. Final push for Trump during prime time. I can't imagine they're doing it. Domestic propaganda apparatus, which targets Russian speakers all over the world. Well, how is that going to affect the election? People in Moscow can't vote for Joe Biden.
Or can they?
The Daily Beast is such a rag. I mean, it's just obvious to me, Charles, that this is the template that the social engineers use against me. They, put out fake stories on their stupid websites to try to counteract the real message. It's the analogs between what they're doing at that high level. Now, you were talking to me about this movie, The Plot to Get the President.
Right.
I watched it. What's in that we didn't already know?
Oh, well, because we said most of that stuff before they said it.
But so what's in it that we didn't already know?
But my point is, we aren't members of Congress. We aren't running Just the News. We aren't, the various people, sundry people making those comments. One thing I would like to say, Jason, and I'm happy to keep talking about this, but I don't want to forget this. The real story here is not about Russia or China or Iran interfering in the American election. The real story is our British forebears, angry, I would argue, over 1776 and all that, and 1812, the Redux, 1812 to 14, hatched a plot as junior partners in the post-1945 era to remain relevant by working closely and maybe even sponsoring our activities, the activities of the CIA and other interventionist groups financed by the taxpayer. And they were having a bang-up time as the Commonwealth blew up, having outsized influence in the Security Council, the UN, with us around the world, supporting us in many ventures. But they also created opportunities for investors and politicians to enrich themselves, promoting this unregulated globalism. And my suspicion is that the real motivation for 2016 and the resistance afterwards is the Brits knew that they were in a sticky wicket, that they were going to get, if you had Mike Flynn with knowledge of how this stuff is supposed to work and the appropriate clearances, lead a team of like Rick Grinnell and others back into history to see what the Brits were up to with crooked Americans and other crooked people spying on Americans, getting unfair advantages and deals that enrich themselves, their families, and their institutions. Exactly. And Boris Johnson, who, I mean, he's a great puppet.
Right. This show has come back.
Which show is this?
Spitting Image.
Oh, has that come back with him in it?
Yeah, it's on YouTube now.
Oh, great. But he has a lot to answer for. I mean, he was foreign minister when in the 2016 election. He and Gina Haspel had to know what Brennan and Obama and many others were up to by way of feeding dirt on Trump, promoting the anti-Trump saga during the campaign, and afterwards the resistance. He could explain a lot. And he's in a place now, kind of like Braverman, where he should be forced to talk. You know, one way, the alliance with the United States should be on the line. If I were Trump, if Trump wins re-election, I would dispatch, I'm not even sure I'd send Pompeo. I might send, you know, a White House assistant or Jared Kushner or somebody over. And
to where?
To read the riot act to Johnson. To say, listen, we have you. Don't try to claim that you didn't know about this. All right. We want to understand why it is that you and the UK were doing what you were doing to us in the 15, 16, and post-election period. We want to understand all. We want to get to the bottom of Skripal. What the hell was going on there? Why the unequal exchange with Anna Chapman and the spies? Why Uranium One? Why all this?
You know, I meant to ask you, did Maria Butina have anything to do with that?
Not that I'm aware. I mean, maybe. I was only focused on Chapman.
Because the other thing along the lines of what you're saying, this picture is interesting to me, Charles. If we were to discuss even just 900 of the 1,000 words that this is saying, 450 go to Pompeo, 450 go to Trump, and they don't look too excited. They're like, something stinks right here.
Right.
But the thing I wanted to tell you about, maybe you already know, is that there was this story where Gina Haspel went and met with Abdulaziz about spying going on at Twitter.
No disrespect is meant here at all to the King of Saudi Arabia, but you will have about as much of a chance of learning something from the present King of Saudi Arabia as you would from
Joe Biden.
From having Joe Biden read 2 pages of his 70-page manifesto. I mean, the King is not well. I'm sure he is a genial person. He's been king for a while, but this is actually, it's interesting and remarkable that she's not wearing a head scarf.
Well, I was going to say it looks like she got there early and she's wearing some of their window coverings.
Yes. Let's go into a room where my skirt will blend in with your
camouflage.
Curtains.
Yeah, that's part of her CIA Harry Potter invisible cloak. But the point is not what Abdulaziz would have told her. It's that she went there to talk about Twitter spying, and then Twitter fired some Saudi people that were working there.
Yeah. Again, I'm not impressed with Haspel. I'm not impressed with the job. I'm certainly not impressed with Wray. And I think a lot of people sold this country and Trump down the river. And there must be a reckoning here. I'm not talking about, blood reckoning. I'm just saying we need to understand what happened. I'm sick and tired of TikTok out of the Fox people, Hannity, and this is going to happen, that's going to happen, and nothing happens.
Yeah.
We're way past the point where something needs to happen. And one way or the other, I want to see Haspel out. I want to see Wray out. I want to see Esper out. I want to see a lot of the sludge out of the IRS. I want real focus on the tax case in the IRS.
Barr out.
Barr, I think, unless he would have to, I'd be prepared to give him a little bit more of a shot, not simply out of loyalty to a fellow Horace Mann alumnus, but I have not seen anything yet to suggest that he's sitting on all this, which would...
What?
No, because it's, I know that it's gigantic. I mean, the scope of this. The question is not, on this swamp cleaning, you are talking about thousands of people. You're talking about a prosecution that might implicate Barack Obama as a traitor, which is a capital offense for which, you'd have riots in this country if you didn't seed the ground properly. So
he could sink 3-point shots from Leavenworth.
That's right. Yeah. Fill out his, what are they, those NCAA basketball tournament charts?
Yeah.
He could do that.
Yeah.
He could maybe get around to writing a book.
He'd be popular in prison, Obama. He'd have to get those teardrop tattoos.
Anyway, the art department once again has triumphed. I hope people enjoyed the show. And
yeah, thank you, Charles. I
Thank you.
enjoyed it. I hope that people will become sponsors, because when YouTube does stuff like they did yesterday, people can still see those shows on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Plus, it keeps the show going, and I couldn't do this show without your support and sponsorship. Charles, we had 2,500 people watching today.
Wow.
Live. Yeah, I mean, that's really good. When I came home yesterday from doing that live stream, there's about 1.1 thousand watching live. And when I walked in the door here, I had left the computer on to, just make sure it's still running when I get here. And Roseanne Barr was doing a live stream, 900 people watching.
Right.
So she's got about 30 years of international fame ahead of me. And more people were interested in seeing what was going on in New York City than in Roseanne Barr's living room.
Well, I really appreciate it. I notice, again, I'm the numbers guy, so I look at other streams and other podcasts, and I'm actually, 2,500 live viewers is pretty good. It's about probably, 100 times as many as Joe Biden?
I was going to say, yeah. You should try to write in. People will vote for you over Joe.
Yeah, I did notice on that subject that when I was punching, I was waiting to see if the Tehran Times article would run before the election or not, so I punched my name in. And now Google will say at the top, they have a description of who you are. It says, Charles Ortel, film actor. Like,
what?
What? I don't think, well, because you're all your podcasts.
But I thought it was because you tried to be in Wolf of Wall Street.
I was in 2 movies.
What were the 2 movies?
Clinton Inc.
Uh-huh.
And the other one was a documentary. I forget the name of it.
Where does it say that?
Whoa! Does this? What if you do it with on my phone version?
The what?
On my phone when I do it. If you punch in Charles Ortel in quotes, how many do you get? If you don't mind, because when you do it without quotes, it'll get you trouble. Yeah, that's interesting. At the peak before 2016, I was up at 200,000 when he did that. And of course, there's no suppression. I mean, it's not like we've done close to 300 2-hour podcasts since then, and I've done umpty interviews. Maybe it's, if you go back to this section in here, that you just down a little bit.
You want
to? Well, it doesn't matter.
He could accuse you of worse things than being an actor.
Yeah.
But there we go, Charles. So, excellent show. I've really... I'm at a loss for words. It was that good.
No, it was a pleasure to interact with you. Let's wait and see what happens. I hope people will vote if you can vote, and I hope people will vote down ticket. I'm loving. We didn't have the time. I didn't even suggest to you, but I think if we ever had the ability to put musical sounds in, talking about that dimwit, arrogant loser Anthony Scaramucci, his Twitter feed. He must be sitting there with his ex-wife has figured out how, his current wife, he was going to divorce her, she filed for divorce, but they reconciled because she's anti-Trump. And he then couldn't sell out his asset management business to the Communist Chinese HNA conglomerate. So now he's the leader, one of the leaders of the resistance. And his Twitter feed is hysterical. It's just so arrogant and so wrong. And you know that song, Minnie the Moocher?
Yes.
That should be his theme song.
Yeah, I'm not a big Scaramucci guy. But we'll see what happens on Tuesday, Charles. We'll definitely, hopefully the weather will be nice on Wednesday. It's getting cold. It was pretty cold walking around yesterday, but it was raining and now it's super dark. We had the clocks go back last night. So it's an hour earlier, Charles, even though it's dark.
And it'll be lighter in the morning early. So.
And then we'll see everybody tomorrow
Very good.
Sometime soon. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great night. See you later, Charles.
Great.